talk about taking maybe a whole week off from work. What does that look like for a talented tiny business owner? What does that look like for somebody who's a one-person business, who's running the show? Maybe you have contract people that work for you or an employee or two. But what happens when you know that if you take a week off of work, things are not really going to happen? Once upon a time, years ago when I first started on e-commerce, people would actually put up on their websites, I'm out of town for these 2 weeks, that kind of thing. We all know that does not happen anymore. If you do have only something like an Etsy shop, you can put it on vacation mode, but typically that also is not the best way to do things. I know that for years, my having an e-commerce shop, it was terrifying to be gone for an entire week because you usually have to ship within that time frame if you are product-based. So there are a few things that you can do to prepare so you are not enraging your clients and coming back to a mountain of work. Now, the first is that we all know when you get excited about going on vacation, you get more work done than ever before. In fact, I often think if we could trick ourselves into think we're going on vacation, we'd probably get all the things done. You do tend to want to button things up and check things off that list before you go. That way it makes you relax. So of course, use that. Get as many things as you can done ahead of time. Now, the second is, besides getting things done ahead of time, is actually batching and scheduling ahead of time. I do know many people who create content months in advance so that they can actually pick up and leave. There are people that take the whole summer off, and the way that they do that is they prepare months in advance. So maybe each week when they're doing their blog post, they're doing 2 blog posts. So they're starting to work ahead of time. When I do have my podcast seasons going, I do that. I batch them so that I'm not having to necessarily scramble if something happens on a week that you can't do things. You can use the same idea to plan things like blog posts, podcasts, social media posts, a lot of your marketing content ahead of time. The third thing is to actually have somebody come in and kind of sub in for you. Now, I tend to travel differently than my husband, mainly because we have very difficult rescue dogs, and it's often just easier if one of us is home. When these things happen, for example, in the times when I could not leave for an entire week without having orders shipped, I printed and created a manual and trained him on how to do orders. If he really came into a problem, he could call me and do it. I also at times have hired somebody that have come in and do that. Usually it's somebody that works a little bit for me part-time or contract so that they're slightly familiar with the process. But another way to do that is if you have a friend, which I've done this too, who is in a similar business enough that they just can recognize the software, things like that. If you have to ship orders, and they can often come in and help, and then you can do that for them so they can go away. So that's a third really great way, and that is to have somebody come in just for that time to help. The fourth is to simply tell this works much more in service, not product-based businesses. Tell your clients that you're going away for a week, that obviously you're not going to have somebody come in and work with your clients. So communicating ahead of time. Communication is key. You can have an out-of-office email going on. You can let people know that you will be gone. And you can, while you're gone, moving on to the fifth thing, you can fully 1 hour a day check in with your emails and things like that. Sometimes checking in just a little bit or taking 1 day of the vacation, if you're taking a full week where you're going to do some check-in time for a few hours, will help you with that peace of mind. But know that you can take a vacation. You can take a week off. The world will not fall apart. Your business will keep moving. You will not completely let everything go. Let's talk about this. What are some things that could happen that really freak you out? Okay, something goes wrong and you can't fix it. Guess what? On your phone these days, we all pretty much have smartphones, especially if you run a business. You can use that to communicate with people if there is a problem. They will understand. It's you. If you're a tiny business owner, they most likely are supporting you and are okay with it. The problem is when you're not communicating. As long as you're communicating, which is why it's good, even if you're not going to reply, to just check, stay on top of things. You also, as we have talked about in number 3, could have somebody that you have back at home in your workspace who can also communicate for you if that is the case. But I know a lot of us like to be that person communicating. The other thing that could go wrong or that could come up that could really stress you out is, let's say you get an opportunity for some great press and you're not there or whatever. More will come. It will not be an end of the world if you miss it. And hey, what have we learned from the pandemic? You can take a random video of you for a press thing or send an email from wherever you are. Nobody has to go in and be at the place. So if somebody wants you to appear on, let's say, a talk show or something like that, and I'm out of the country, maybe they'll let you send in a video. You never know. But in general, the worst things that could go wrong, a fire, a flood, something gets lost, all of that can be handled between you and the professionals or somebody, somebody that can step in. Make sure you leave a key somewhere hidden or have a maybe code to your garage or to your office, so if somebody needs to get in there, they can. But just think about all the things that could go wrong and then think, what will I do in that case? That helps me. If you're not somebody that thinks about the worst thing, don't bring on anxiety in this, but if you are an anxious person, think about those things that go wrong and then have a plan for it. It will help you relax. But no, it's okay for you to take a vacation. I hope you do and enjoy it. I am Sierra Bailey with Doers, Shakers, Makers, and I come to you each week with a business tip. This week's tip: it's okay to take a vacation. You can do it. Your business will not die while you're gone. I'll be back next week with another business tip. Thank you.